My AI-driven cybersecurity analyst series is all about using AI tools to let you know if it's worth your time. I'll often highlight risks, suggest pro tips, or alternative tools to help you shine like a unicorn.
Let's check out Duck.AI. So Duck.AI is a product that is offered by DuckDuckGo. Many of you are probably familiar with DuckDuckGo as the anonymous or privacy-first search engine. And they have now launched Duck.AI, which allows users to interact with different large language models with privacy first. So many of us in the cybersecurity community are terrified about what these different large tech companies are doing with our data or what might get leaked if we are communicating and having private or sensitive information go to OpenAI or Google or whoever the provider may be. So this may be a solution worth checking out, and it is a freemium model. So there is a free tier where you can interact with several popular large language models, most of them being smaller models in the free version. So you can interact with Anthropic, Claude, Llama 4, Minstrel, and OpenAI GPTs. And then if you want access to additional models or larger models, you can subscribe to DuckDuckGo and then get access to additional models to use as well. So let's check this out. If we go over to Duck.AI, the first thing we see here is that it's claiming that it's free and has private chats anonymized by DuckDuckGo, no account required. That's great. And then you have access to different models, which is also great. And there is no AI training on your conversations. If we look over at the privacy policy here, we can see they are claiming that recent chats are not saved to their servers, but instead locally to your device. And then you can opt out of that as well. So nothing is being saved locally. And then you can also tweak some of that as well. But by default, it seems like the last 30 conversations are saved locally and then they are erased. There's other ways of erasing it, like clearing your browser data and tweaking some of the settings. It's also saying that metadata containing personal information, for example, your IP address, is removed before sending any of the prompts to the model to receive a reply back. So that all sounds great. Obviously, there are some downsides to that, right? There's lack of context about you, your conversations, preferences, etc. if you only have 30 conversations saved locally, but privacy versus capability use, you're going to have some trade-offs. You can't have your cake and eat it too. So let's go ahead and agree and continue here and see what options we have. So at the top here, you can see by default, at least for me, at the time of this recording, I have 4.0 Mini as the LLM that I'm interacting with. And I can see I've got GPT-5 Mini, I've got Llama, Claude, Minstrel, etc. that I can switch between here. I do want to compare this, and then some of the advanced models you've got to pay for. I do want to compare just by default here, if we start a new chat, what we're going to get from Duck.AI compared to a commercial solution that is not privacy first, and see what the responses look like. So before we do that though, I do want to show you some of the settings you get, which I appreciate, is that if we go into the customization, we can tweak the tone. I want everything default just for the test case that we're going to have here, but you've got different roles, length of response, it can be more concise or verbose. You can have it ask clarifying questions, you give it nicknames, and then also modify the system prompt, which is something I greatly appreciate because I typically have multiple different system prompts for how I want the AI to respond. Do I want it to be more of a technical editor and use certain vocabulary, terminology, and sound consistent? Or do I want it to go into a lot of detail, being my malware analyst or security researcher? There's different hats I want it to wear and a lot of detail and context and how I want it to reply back and provide a lot of inputs to it as well. So this is great that we can customize this a little bit, I'm assuming with the system prompt here as well. Let me cancel out of this. And so I'm going to go ahead and for comparisons, what I've done is I have a paid subscription to OpenAI, and I have asked it to create a well-crafted prompt to provide a threat intelligence executive summary on LLAMA stealer malware. And it provided a lot of detail, the role, the task, the audience, the tone, but I wanted to use a third party to create the prompt, and then we'll use DuckDuckGo or Duck.AI, and then we'll compare that output to Gemini and see what kind of response we get here. So I'm just going to paste the reply or the system prompt here that we've selected, And so you can see we've got the role as a security or cybersecurity threat analyst, providing a executive summary to leadership. We've got task, audience. All of this was just default from, let me see, GPT 5.2. And so I'm going to go ahead and send this. And a couple things we want to keep in mind is it started providing output pretty quick, which is great. And we can see what is Luma Stealer, why leadership should care about this, why this matters for the business, threat activity and trends, potential impact of compromise, likelihood assessment, what are we doing, what we should be doing, takeaways, okay? And then what I'm going to do is open up a new tab, and we're going to put the same prompt into the current version of Gemini and see what kind of response that we get from that as well. Okay, fairly similar time frame of getting a response back. We get executive summary. Oh, I see a little bit more here about click fix, which I did not see on the DuckAI response. Potential impact of compromise, likelihood assessment high, what we're doing and should be doing, takeaways. Okay, so somewhat similar. I'm seeing a little bit more details about what I'm actually seeing in the threat landscape here with the click fix and other things that, unless I missed it, I didn't really see. Oh, here's some stuff on MFA, but just scanning it, I didn't see the stuff on click fix is what we're currently seeing with Luma Stealer. So it looks like a little bit higher level, shorter responses with what we're getting from DuckAI. And we got some more actionable, up-to-date stuff that I'm seeing here in the Gemini response. But depending on your use case, it may be worth comparing to whatever the current generative AI solution that you're using compared to DuckAI and see what kind of responses you get. I always recommend that, trying a couple of different solutions, comparing the responses, and then going with what works best for you. But obviously with the Google Gemini product, Google has traditionally made its money on advertising and knowing a lot of information about you. So I would be very skeptical personally putting a lot of personal PII and definitely not customer data or things that are sensitive into those models. So it may be worth checking out. However, my thought process still is that even though I think DuckDuckGo has a good reputation on privacy first, anything that is going to be sensitive or I wouldn't want in the public knowledge, I'm still not going to put into my browser or into any third party. I would use an offline or air gap solution with a local large language model. And I just feel a lot more confident that information is staying on my computer or my systems that I control, and it's not going over the internet or to a third party. But you got to think about risk versus reward, resources, setting all that up, and the type of content that you're putting into these chatbots. Let me know your thoughts on DuckAI and if you have a different experience in the comments below. Thanks for watching.